Earlier this week, we sat down to talk to Hamish Bode, Community Director for Fellowship, about, well, everything. From how the first month has gone, server issues, the hilariously timed AWS issue, queues, community questions, and just a lot more. The edited down version of this is already up on the channel if you want just the key questions. That's over 30 minutes. But if you wanted more Hamish, then here is the full, unedited, over an hour-long conversation. And if you want to see us continue to do these kind of interviews with developers, then please let us know. Your feedback is invaluable. Enjoy. I think my very first question would be, when we last spoke, it was at Gamescom just over a month before you were going to do the early access, and now here we sit close to a month afterwards. How have emotions changed? How has that time kind of been for you in the lead up, and then that break moment, and then the aftermath?
Honestly, it feels like there hasn't been a break. That's the first thing. It feels like also an eternity has passed since Gamescom, but because there's been really no downtime, yeah, it feels like no time has passed at all. Like someone was asking me today, how do the team feel about how everything's gone? And it's like we're just all systems go. So it's really hard to kind of stop and take a breath and be like, um, we're really proud of what we've done. And I know that people feel like that,
Yeah.
but we haven't, I think, been able to take the time to just kind of stop and be like, hey, this is what we've done is huge. We obviously need to keep going, but yeah, it's just a weird kind of duality of both of those things. Also, I'm on the other side of the world. The rest of the team are in Sweden, so I know they had like a launch party like last week or the week before. Again, time is meaningless. So I think it was nice for them to be able to have, some time to celebrate and that sort of stuff, because I think they absolutely deserve it. So I think generally everyone's very proud, but haven't really had enough time to realize it yet.
Uh, we obviously have to, if we're going through like the timeline of things that have happened, we have to talk about like you had an incredibly successful but incredibly rocky, I think is fair
Mm.
to say,
Oh yeah.
beginning. And what was that kind of like from your perspective, where you're seeing people trying to engage and the kind of positivity around it, and how that then
Yeah.
kind of morphs into some people remaining positive throughout and being like, well, it's suffering because it's popular, mixed with the
Mm.
negativity of people being like, they should have prepared for this. Like, we just want to get in. This is not right.
No, absolutely. It's a really interesting time. It's really not my first rodeo, so
Yeah.
I was ready for this to be a possibility. Because I mean, realistically, gamers know that it's very common for online games to have unforeseen issues whenever they open up the doors, right? We're not the only people that face those issues. That doesn't mean it's good or it should be something that people are excited for having to deal with. I wouldn't even say that. But it was very tumultuous. But while it was all going on, you could still see that when people were able to play, they were having a fantastic time. So everyone knew that once we got the thing sorted, so we were 100% focused on just getting everything up and running as smoothly as possible, as quickly as possible. We were very confident that people would be having a good time very quickly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of those things. It seems like forever when you're in it. I think it was really only what 3 or 4 days
Yeah.
um, that like the main issues, and then obviously we had some ongoing things. And to be fair, we still have a lot of things that we're working on now. Um, but those first 4 days, it felt like just yeah, you're in a tunnel. Um, but I remember saying at the time, when everything's up and running, we'll very quickly forget that we had to deal with this, and I think that that's true. Um, but I do also remember that I promised that I would do a post-mortem podcast about all of those things, and that's still on my list of things to do. So once our server engineers are well rested enough and less traumatized, I'll be recording something with them to kind of go through what happened and specific things we can share, because I think a lot of people will find that really interesting.
What was the feeling like when you kind of got your feet and you were finding your stride to then have that AWS issue where like you guys got your stuff fixed and then half the internet just disappears?
It's just one of those things, and like you have to laugh in a way, like, because it was comically bad. I mean,
I
and
know, right?
also like I understand why people would be like, oh, look, more issues with Fellowship, and we're like, it's not us. We promise, it's not us. The whole internet is breaking. But I remember seeing some chat on Slack, and one of our engineers was like, I'm so glad it's not me. Like it's almost vindicating, but it also doesn't make it better, because perception is reality, right? If there's an issue and it's an issue with people getting into our game, it's always going to kind of be, right now I'm not playing Fellowship. I'm not having a good time. So very mixed. Obviously, Amazon's online team is a bit bigger than ours, just a little,
tiny bit, like one or two people, right?
Just a tiny bit bigger. So we were pretty confident that they'd get it sorted quite quickly, and it didn't last too long, thankfully.
I just think that there must have been a wonderful amount of swear words, and also, like you said, just humor in the fact that like you finally get everything sorted and sorted, close to, and then it's a case of, okay, breathe, all right guys, and then it's like, wait, things are down. What's broken? Is it us? And then it's like you start seeing the reports come in, and it's like, wait, really? Now of all times?
Yeah.
And having to explain to people, like, I was not working at the time, so I managed to see it kind of happen in real time, and seeing the people come into the Discord and complaining, and then other people in the Discord being like, it's not them, and you guys putting out messages.
That was really interesting to see. So there were some, I can't remember some of the Discord users that were basically giving live updates of Amazon's health dashboard at the time. That was real. That was so cool to see. Just people being like, hey, look, this is the reality. And they were, it's not something like, I don't expect people to go in to like defend us. That's not the point. But just people being very open.
Good to see, right? When it like kind of emphasizes that like community spirit that you're trying to build as well, to see these people just kind of like all coming together in this wonderful moment of hey, like we're all here, like let's all like
that's help. What I liked. I enjoyed seeing that part of it. That's what I was trying to articulate, is that it's really nice to see people in our community helping each other. That was my main takeaway from that. So I think that's my absolute favorite thing that I see in our community, is when people help each other. So the more of that I see, the happier I am.
It definitely feels like an interesting kind of tightrope walking. I mean, we discussed this. I think we discussed this off camera at Gamescom, but we were talking about toxicity in communities, and it's a case of like it's a very interesting kind of tightrope that you're trying to walk when you are trying to build a concept that is, hey, like you're building a community. And you want those people on your friends list that you can reliably trust to like do these runs and everything else. But at the end of the day, you are playing in a system that is timed. And because of that, there is going to be a pressure system on it. And that is going to lead to some people being toxic. And it's kind of nice to see that for the most part, wholesomeness is winning out. Of course, it's not going to sweep the board, but it's nice to see that the community hasn't full on devolved into eating itself just yet.
No. So I mean, like I said, I've worked on a lot of games before, and I've seen
and some that have some way worse. Yeah.
They've devolved. It's been something that I've had to deal with. I've been really heartened to see just how wholesome, like you say, for the most part. There are outliers. Our fellowship community already is. That's not to say that there aren't things that we need to look at. I mean, one of the things that is going to be a focus for us going forward is finding it easier to add frictionless ways for different parts of our community to play together. So right now, what I you see a lot of is you have new players who are completely new to this kind of genre. I mean, we effectively are creating a new genre, but people who have experience in similar types of things, they're kind of bumping up against people who are just wanting to learn something new, right? So I think one of the things that would really help us, and one of the things, I mean, we'll be working on it as one of our focuses during early access, is providing like community tools. I mean, guilds is one of the things that I think would be really helpful here.
Yeah.
So we have ways for people to find their people, people with similar interests and those sorts of things. I think it's great. It's fantastic that we have solo queue matchmaking. It's really awesome because for the most part, people can get into games really quickly. But once you get to that next step of being able to try and create your own micro communities in game with people who have similar interests, I mean, yes, you can do that out of the game and Discord and that sort of stuff. But that's obviously not the ideal end goal. We want people to jump in the game, have a good time with, and identify why they're having a good time with certain people, and then continue to play with those people. So I think guilds will really help. We have a lot to do on the friends list. We have, obviously, our in-game chat is not working across the board right now, and that's one of our things that
I
we
wasn't going to
absolutely
mention that one, but yeah.
get into. No, I mean, it's something that we are very aware of, and it's again one of the things that are on the top of the list right now. But once we get those kind of that bucket of features which are related to kind of the social and community aspects of the game, I think there are things that you're seeing that are symptomatic of those issues.
Yeah.
So, for example,
Yeah.
we are working on like an eternal matchmaking system at the moment, which is a bit more different than the league matchmaking system we have right now. But it's also worth realizing that some of the things that are frustrating with eternal matchmaking can also partially be solved by some of the community and social tools that we
Yeah.
need. So there's overlap between different features and systems and that sort of thing. But this is the exciting part about developing a game, right? We are just at the start of really creating what Fellowship will be years from now. So the types of things that we are implementing now, we really need to be holistic and careful with how we do them because they're going to have such a huge impact over the next few years. That's why I think we need to be very considered with what we do, as opposed to just being like, oh yeah, we'll change this, we'll change that, we'll do a lot of knee-jerk development. I think the best thing for us to do is like, well, where do we want to be 6 months to a year from now? Once we get to, future seasons, how do we expect people to be playing? What are some of the player behaviors we're seeing right now that we can expect to continue? What do we want them to be continuing to do, not continuing to do? It's tricky. There's a lot of variables because people are complex.
I think it's really interesting you hit upon a great point. You also mentioned it on your stream as well when someone asked about the queues, which is, I think, players, when they are asking for something, sometimes, not to a negative, but more just as a generalization, they ask for a specific feature or a specific thing. And they kind of forget that the systems within a game aren't created in a vacuum. So like you said, like guilds relieves pressure. Fixing issues with the whisper system and all that kind of stuff relieves pressure on that queue because it means that people can then have more tools available to them to find people, to be able to then run those queues so that it feels less like there's a barrier in the way. I mean, ideally for me, I would love if you could just somehow create a supporter pack that just gives me 3 friends that I can reliably know are going to be online at the same time as me.
Yep.
But like
that'd be great.
I know, right? I think everyone would buy that.
Yeah.
But that's not how it works. But yeah, no. I am a big supporter of the belief that if something can exist outside of the game, there is no reason that it should not exist within the game to some degree. And what I mean by that is, I grew up playing Monster Hunter games, and they were
Sure.
notorious back in the day for you essentially had to have a wiki open to be able to see
Hmm.
drop rates or like what items you needed for like the weapon that you were trying to make, because there was no tree in the game for how you went up the item path. And I hated that. Like if this information exists on a wiki, it could exist in the game. And so
Hmm.
it's that kind of stuff. And like you guys have had that with people complaining or people requesting more information in the codex. And also like,
Yeah, yeah,
oh, we want like these systems in the game. And so it's really interesting to see how you guys are taking the approach of, no, we want these things in the game. We want to remove these friction points and give you these
yeah,
tools and these systems to enable you to essentially remain engaged with the game rather than having to break and go elsewhere. And it was
yeah.
quite interesting to see earlier that you were talking about like, oh, I would like less people watching the stream because it then means that
Yeah,
they're
that'd
playing
be
the
great.
game. Because someone commented, oh, the viewers spiked, and you were like, that always worries me because like I'm worried that something is wrong with the
Yeah.
game and that like they're here to ask if like the queue is down. And so
Yeah.
it was funny
I'd
to
much
me.
prefer people to be playing the game than watching the stream. It's usually like a good indicator that people are wanting information about an issue, right? On your point, like I agree with you up to a point
Yep.
about like
That's the way
information
normally it
being,
goes.
yeah, yeah. So information outside of the game being available in the game, I feel like there's an inflection point where it like
Yep.
I kind of view it like this. Like we want people to have information about things that make the game fun. And for a lot of people, and we've made it very clear that the dungeon codex we have is very incomplete. Like we plan to add boss abilities and enemy abilities and stuff. You know, when people want to find that knowledge, they'll have, for a lot of people, that's what makes figuring out dungeons fun, right?
Yeah.
And so, like on a graph, I'm like, okay, cool, that's increasing fun, that's increasing fun. Then, and we've made very clear that we don't plan to have external add-ons in our game. And there's a very
Yeah.
like key, there's a bunch of reasons for that. We feel that at a point, external add-ons, people basically min-max the fun out of the game. So there's a point where it turns
Yes,
around
it's
and
definitely a bell curve.
people aren't playing the game anymore. What they're doing is whether I mean, I don't mean to say it's an auto battler, but at some point you trivialize things to a point where your design intent is broken.
Yeah.
And we don't necessarily want that. We want people to have enough in game that they're having fun without detracting from it. And there's some things for me that I feel like are close to the edge of that. People have brought up, we have dungeon tracking tools outside of the game. There's conversations around the next step would be, do we make those visible in the in-game map, for example? Maybe.
Mm.
Is that too far? I don't know. I start to think, okay, what does that mean for player dynamics? Some players that's great for, some players that is a burden for people who are not looking to do that. It kind of gives me pause a little bit.
I
And
don't
then,
really want to see people coming into my dungeon and in the first like minute I have to sit there and wait while the tank draws out a dick on the map of like the route that we're going to take. So
well,
like,
this is the thing.
yeah,
Those are the types of things. Or is it something that there's a preset thing on an external tool and you can indicate as a tank what you want to do? There's all these sorts of variables. I get a little bit concerned sometimes with that. There might be a good implementation of that. I don't know. But there's also the player dynamics of, well, if a tank doesn't want to do that, am I as a player going to then feel that I'm forced to do that to be a tank that people want to play with? So there's a lot that I think we need to zoom out on and
yeah,
figure out where's the line. And sometimes we we won't know. But I think the best thing to do is be deliberate and slow and not rush into anything. So we'll see. Like I said, it's early days for Fellowship, and we're kind of excited to see where we go. But we need to be smart about this.
I definitely think that's the right way to be, and I agree with you that like I don't necessarily want an encyclopedia in the game when it comes to the information. You mentioned the like the min-maxing thing, and I can't remember if it was Will Wright or Sid Meier, but so one of them said something along the lines of, given the opportunity, players will like maximize efficiency to the point of taking fun out of the game.
Oh, absolutely.
And
it's just a fact.
Yeah, both of us coming from WoW, and we I think are intrinsically aware of that, when there used to be, and probably still is, the running joke of anytime new talents were shown off, or they showed off like what's coming in the expansion, there would be someone that tweeted out or posted somewhere, I can't wait to see which talents Icy Veins tells me to take, because like there is that like you don't have that freedom of creativity in the game. You either are playing it correctly or you're an idiot, and what are you doing here is kind of the way that the player base ends up going. So I completely agree that there should be cautious trepidation with making sure that you add the right things and don't kind of flood too much, and then it ends up creating kind of elitism or risks fueling that toxicity. Because like you said, it definitely has that issue of like, why aren't you using these tools? This isn't the optimal path. What are you doing? Etc. etc. And then it puts pressure on people to just not do it.
No, and don't get me wrong, for the people that want those tools, they are there. There's some tools that we're like, I think dungeon planning tools are really great. Don't get me wrong, and I'm very happy that they exist.
Oh, I think they have their use.
I just don't. I just don't want them to be a requirement for everyone.
Yeah.
And I'm just using that as an example. There was another thing that we had. We had a message from someone who was like, I am doing like tracking of stuff and essentially adding like an external overlay to the game as an external add-on to track things in real time, and it's basically trying to create an external add-on without interfacing with our game directly. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
No.
I mean, like, you're a very intelligent person, and that's like, I'm impressed, but that's not something that we want in our game. We don't want that to become something that's required for people. We'll probably be doing things actively on our side to make that invalid. So, the things that they're tracking, we will probably end up finding ways to delay the way that data is accessible, so it's irrelevant. But yeah, we've got to be careful, because this is a really, really important time for the game, and that's why I said it's on a lot of these things, it's good that we are slow and deliberate, because imagine we make a wrong turn, it's hard to take a step back and kind of unwind certain things. So yeah, got to be careful.
It's like baking a cake. It's you
can't unbake a cake.
Exactly. Like it's easy to add a little bit more flour here and there where you need to, but like you add like 3 eggs in, you ain't getting those eggs out.
No, exactly.
You mentioned taking your time and being slow and cautious with your steps, yet at the same time, it also shows a incredible amount of dedication to feedback and receptiveness from the dev team that, not long after you had early access, you had your first patch out, and it was addressing direct feedback that players had been talking about, the tank patch, and just, those fixes that were in there. And then you had the other patch just recently, the Halloween one, which I want to talk about as well. But if we can talk about the tank patch just briefly, it definitely felt like that was a patch designed around feedback. That was like, hey, we hear you, we're listening, and like here's us like working on what we see are like the top points.
No, absolutely. So I mean, it's a mix of everything, right? Like, so yes, we want to be slow and deliberate. That's a very specific part of our strategy with the big kind of changes that we want to do with our game. The small changes, we can be quick. I mean, I think you've
Yeah.
seen, like, probably in the past few weeks, we've been putting out patches that have been a lot bigger than I think what people expected, probably bigger than we expected. Just because there are some things that are absolute no-brainers when it comes to adding them, especially all the things on like the editable HUD side, as we're getting new things like buff tracking and ability trackers in, like ability timers. When we have those, we'll absolutely put them in. No one's going to say that that's a bad change. Everyone agrees that that just makes a lot of sense. So when we have things like that, absolutely we'll push them into the game. On like tank balancing and stuff, it's one of those things that, yes, we see what a lot of players are doing. We obviously have data. We see how people are experiencing it. We're getting a lot of feedback on Discord. But we're also playing the game ourselves. I mean,
Yeah.
I've exclusively been playing Meiko. Axel, our game director, has been also playing Helena. So Axel and I talk about this a lot. Because I said to like our leadership team the other day, I was like, I hope everyone is playing solo queue, and I hope everyone is playing, just what the main experience is for players. Because I feel like pre-made groups, they dodge a lot of the issues that we currently have in our game. It's just, you don't have to worry about matchmaking. You have communication, so whenever there's issues, you invalidate them.
I don't know. You
So
should play
it's
with some
been
of the people
really
I do. Like even my
no,
friend,
exactly. No,
even my friend group, they're not that great at times.
no, but this is the thing. Like, it's been really valuable. And Axel and I talked about this morning. Playing solo queue has been very illuminating for us because
Yeah.
obviously before we had the game out in early access, we only were testing amongst ourselves because that's what we had, right? But it's been so good in early access to have the ability to just queue up around the clock whenever we can, um, and just experience the game the way that people are experiencing it. That's the best way to get feedback. And um, I'm not saying that all of the tank buffs are because Axel wants more buffs for Helena, but it helps to understand the realities of the game. So I think, I mean, there's more coming. There's more changes coming on Thursday, and that's largely due to, yes, the feedback that we're seeing on Discord, the player data that we're getting, and also just our own experience. There's nothing better than understanding what's going on with the game than just playing it. So I'm very, very excited to be working with the team that actively plays their game. It's very helpful.
I like that you've fully bought into the Meiko cult as well. After
Hmm.
discussing it at Gamescom and you being like, I don't know, maybe I might go tank, maybe Meiko, and then just watching your
So
streams, there's just all
yeah,
Meiko, 24/7
you
Meiko, the
know,
Meiko channel.
no, exactly. I wasn't actually planning on it. It kind of just happened because I wanted to show people that even someone as bad as me at games can have a good time playing tanks. I'm not a prepared tank. I'm still learning and I'm still practicing. But it's a very valid way to enjoy the game.
Oh,
Also,
I
tanks are
love
very
it.
tank queues are very short, so that's also a benefit. Um, but yeah, no, it's a lot of the things that are happening on the kind of macro balancing of the game are related to just giving power where we see that it's going to help. So rather than just like trivializing certain game difficulties by saying, oh, we're going to lower enemy health and damage by this much, we're just slowly kind of doing a bunch of different changes to a lot of different systems. And once it feels right, we will know.
I think it's very interesting in a kind of meta-analysis way to see. I know that this information won't be available because it's perception, but as the game progresses and as you put more of these tools in place, such as guilds, such as like community staff and whispers and all of the queuing systems and all these things, it's quite interesting that there is going to be a kind of passive shift without thinking about it in that you will be designing slightly less for solo queue because of how much of the player base is going to be kind of shifting, if that makes sense. Like there is there is a lot of people who are solo queuing now who, as time progresses, as they get further into the game, as the game ages a bit more, and as those tools come in, they will kind of move out of that soloing section.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting to me. I don't. There isn't a question that comes with this, by the way. It's just an observationary point.
It is really interesting. You come across a really interesting, like, the shifting player dynamics that we're going to experience are difficult to navigate, but very exciting. I think one of the interesting things that I keep thinking about is I feel like one of the visions of, like, to look at a successful future of Fellowship, absolutely the solo queue needs to be robust. There's a lot of friction points that we have right now in solo queue that I feel like if we can get a lot of those addressed, we're setting ourselves up to have a really welcoming, wide funnel for people to come and experience the game. And that for me is, I think, one of the biggest wins that we could have right now. And then, once people want to drill down into finding, like, sub-communities with different interests, I think that's going to be another very exciting point. But there's so much work to do, but it's that's I think a really big opportunity for us, is making sure that we focus on that part of the puzzle. And then obviously there's things at the top end, like, we've got, for those people who are deep in Eternal, there's Eternal matchmaking coming in, that sort of thing. There's economy changes that I think will impact them going forward. And then I think for those players who are right at the bleeding edge of difficulty, what will be really interesting for them over time is the meta changes when we bring in new heroes and new dungeons. For them to have a new dungeon to sink their teeth into whenever we have those, whether that's going to be with the start of a season and when we release new dungeons, we don't know exactly what that offer is going to look like. But I imagine for a lot of people who are in that Eternal kind of player space, the things that will really get them excited is new heroes to master and new dungeons to figure out.
Were you surprised, or not at all, because the WoW community, when it comes to how quickly people hit that, like, marker of the spider and were running around on that map?
Oh no.
But because
like I said,
I saw some people who were, like, shocked by this, and in my head I'm just like, I'm surprised it wasn't quicker. I'm surprised people hadn't, like, no sleep till Brooklyn and just, like, walked their way through this thing.
Nothing shocks me. The things that players can do is, like, you should never underestimate how quickly players can do stuff.
And the rat still remains undiscovered.
Is it even discoverable? This is the thing. So I don't, this with the Sir Bombastic stuff, I'm not, like, pulling your leg at all. I legitimately don't know if there is a way to get it right now. I'm like, not trying to troll.
I don't know if there is. Like, part of me thinks
go
on.
Like, I don't want to know. I think that's the best thing, because if I fear that if I find out certain things one way or the other, then the channel that's on Discord right now trying to figure everything out, I just want to keep watching it. It's exciting to kind of see people try and figure out all of these things, like the skulls in the stronghold. I haven't caught up on what's happening with that. I don't know.
I've found the skulls, I've done the jumping puzzles, and I have unfortunately been too busy working to kind of check back in to see if anything has come after that. And these smug little grin on your face.
No, this is the thing. I actually don't even know.
No, I fully believe you. I 100% believe that you don't know, because I also think that you enjoy not knowing more, because it also then minimizes the risk of you accidentally mentioning a hint or doing something, because if you don't know, you get to enjoy the ride and like, see what the community is doing with it.
I get to be part of the community with this, which is a lot of fun, because often, like, knowing stuff is a burden. I know nothing on this thing, so I just get to kind of enjoy watching people try and figure stuff out. So
I think for me, the one thing I would want to know is it in the game or not? If I was in your role, that would be the one thing that I would want to know. Just simply because there's that paranoia in my head of like, is it in the game yet? Isn't it in the game yet? Is it meant to be in the game yet and it's broken? Is it like, is something not working? And then, there's that stressor of like, I need to find all these things. And then you go through it and the insanity
I
of
lean
you
towards
thinking you have.
I'm pretty convinced it's not in the game.
I don't
Like
think it is.
knowing what I do know, I don't think Sir Bombastic is achievable in the game. One, because people haven't achieved it, and people, if there is a way, they will find it.
That's always one great way, because normally data miners ruin everything.
Did you see the data mine trolling that was in there?
No, I haven't.
Okay, yeah. There's something really
please
funny.
tell me more.
Go and check it. I think one of the devs left a note in there that was like, "Hello, cheeky data miners," or something like. There's something in there. I can't remember. I saw something about it, but it was, yeah, very interesting to see.
That was it was one of the first things I did when I saw that it was like, wait, there's a mount. Wait, it's from in this thing. Wait, there's a skull, and it was like, are there more? And it was like finding a second one. I was like, oh, there are more. I was like, how many more are there? And then I went insane for 2 whole days running around trying to find all of the skulls that I could. And
it might just be the ultimate trolling. I think it might just be dev trolling, to be honest, which I'm here for. I like it.
I mean, it would be really hilarious to me if the skulls weren't related to it, because they also are just simply nice Easter eggs to games that have come before. I think all of them are a reference to something else. And like, that's great. Like but because of one of the conversations we had, again, at Gamescom, was the kind of DNA that made up Fellowship isn't just MMOs. That, there is that aspect of like the ARPGs, of the MOBAs in there, and all these kind of things. And it's been funny to me explaining to friends and explaining to our community members of people who are like, oh, it's just WoW dungeons. And it's like, no, there's more. Like, you can see other little smatterings of stuff. Meiko is a really good example of that, because when we were doing the playthrough at Gamescom, the way that you and I connected over Meiko was, it's Invoker. Like, it's Dota Invoker.
That's a good way to explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think there's
like, oh, it's WoW Monk. And it's like, no, it's Dota Invoker. Like
yeah.
So much...
Yeah, I think there's like a League of Legends character that has a similar kind of combo system. Is it like Hui or someone?
Oh,
I don't know. I don't play League, but like that combo kind of system. But we've always talked about like Meiko has other like rhythm games kind of inspirations, like various musical things and that sort of thing.
I wanted to talk to you about Eric. Oh, but please continue, and then I will hold this.
No, I mean, no. So Tariq is also very musical, and there's also, I mean, you can tell that there's a lot of musicians on the team. There's a lot of metal references in Tariq's talent tree that people have picked up on. But yeah, it's kind of cool that we have that duality on the hero system, where there are some more mechanically adventurous heroes, and there are others that are more familiar and classic. But I think the ones that we create in the future, it's going to be exciting to see where we push things to be more mechanically adventurous, and I think people are going to be excited about that.
It very much was an interesting experience playing Mara, as coming from a rogue in WoW to playing Mara. It's like, oh, this is close to a one-to-one at times of how the system works. And it felt familiar and it felt comfortable. And then swapping from that over to Tariq, and it's like, oh, it's a rhythm game. And it's something different, and that was quite cool. And then, the fact that I'd already played Meiko because of Gamescom was quite interesting. Otherwise, I would have then like the moment I jumped over to Meiko, I then would have been like, what is this kind of weird tank that's going on? And then you also have the very standardized, like, you know, comfortable sword and board tank that feels more like what some players are going to know and love. And it really does feel kind of like you are giving them not necessarily safe options, but you're giving them comfortable, familiar options to help them steady themselves. And then you're giving them more adventurous ones when they want to kind of play around a bit.
No, exactly. Because imagine a future where, well, not a future, a parallel timeline where we released Fellowship with only heroes that are completely off the wall. Imagine if everything was Meiko and Tariq, and they were all that kind of design, right?
Yeah.
That were, you know, something a bit different and those sorts of things. People would be like coming into the game and being like, there's nothing I can wrap my head around. So yeah, it was very deliberate that we have that duality of some mechanically adventurous stuff and some things that no matter what game you play, you can kind of understand from, you know, a million different games what a sword and board kind of tank does, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I really look forward to a roster that is much, much bigger than what we have right now, because that's going to be, I mean, our game will really become what it, deserves to be. I think that's where we'll be getting into the genre that we're trying to create. I think right now, I'm not saying it's not apparent right now, but I think it'll become very crystallized once we get into that kind of flow.
It's one of the things I'm most curious about is always that kind of like where we are now versus where we will be in 3 months or 6 months, and what things will look like differently. One of the questions that was asked on Reddit, 'cause I asked the community if they had any questions for you. Someone said that while it's early days, has any thought been given to how new dungeons would fit into the current layout? Would a dungeon be swapped out or anything? Because it's funny to me, when looking at the system of how it's currently laid out, the UI breaks when you add a new dungeon, unless you change something or swap something out, because you have it laid out so specifically for the amount of dungeons you have, because you have the 3 on each page. And if you add one, then the pages go wrong, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, we'd kind of need to figure out how we expose, like, how we put things on the menu,
Yeah.
so to speak, right? I don't know that every dungeon will be available in every season, right? Like there might be some that get retired and that sort of thing, but that's something we need to kind of figure out as we move forward.
I mean, I don't think, like, depending on how frequently you're going to add them and the cadence in which they're coming, I don't think you could necessarily have all of them available, because at some point, surely you hit an event horizon of overload
No,
for
exactly.
the players. So it's like keeping it concise and trimmed, especially if you're running the kind of, you know, not necessarily 9-month-long seasons, then it means that you're able to swap them out and also make changes to them in the background while they are out, and, you know, iterate on them or balance them. And then when you bring them back, they are refreshed in some way. So I definitely think there's kind of pros and cons to both options.
Definitely. That's what I kind of was getting at before about, like, we need to think ahead, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to say we have this situation now, and then for whenever we do the next season, for example, or whenever we introduce one new hero and one new dungeon, or one new hero and two new, whatever it would be. If we're looking short term and trying to find solutions for short term, I don't think that really serves us, because those things, if we were to make decisions based on that, they could break down really quickly. What would be more helpful for us is figuring out what systems do we want to have in place when we have 40 dungeons in our back pocket and 30 heroes, right? How does the system we create now still work in the future when we have that? Because I don't think it would be helpful for us to be trying to redesign a new system every time we want to add something to the game, right? I mean, even right now, we have a Halloween event where, you have 9 heroes. It's pretty doable to get all of the skins if you want,
Yeah.
right? But there will come a point when we have so many heroes that it's just not feasible for most people to be even able to do that. So we just have to kind of figure out what do we want players to expect? What are our player behaviors going to be? How do they kind of adapt over time? Not just in the short term, but also in the mid and long term. I think that's going to be really important.
One of the things you mentioned at Gamescom was not having a roadmap. And is that like that's cheating, just responding with that, because that automatically answers how you feel about my next question, which is, I was gonna say, is it freeing that you don't have one because it's not confining you to having pre-made choices, like you just said, where it's a case of you get to think ahead, you get to adjust these things in a way, and also it feeds back into your baking a cake analogy thing, where it's like we get to be careful with how we're doing things, because a roadmap kind of either locks you into a path or is completely irrelevant and makes you a liar, because like if you start changing things, so is it like freeing to not
No,
have
exactly.
that?
I think, let me preface it with this. Like, I've made it very clear how I feel about roadmaps, but I think what the question, when people are asking, like, oh, do you have roadmaps? I think what they're really asking is,
Do you
will
have
you
a
be able to
plan?
tell us about what you, yeah, will you be able to tell us about what you're planning to do? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, hopefully that people are picking up on what my intent is, that I plan to be as transparent as we possibly can be about what we're planning to do with Fellowship going forward. I've been making a lot of videos that talk about design intent, what's coming up in patches, um, and lots of things like that. And I plan to do that even more and at you know more forward thinking than what
Yeah.
we've even shown so far. Because obviously we've been in very much just getting things up and running mode. But you bring up exactly the kind of reason why I think traditional roadmaps don't really serve a game, or especially the game that we're trying to create. One of the most recent ones that and I kind of alluded to it before, like right at the start of our chat, there are a lot of moving parts when you're working on a game, right?
Yeah.
And so we want to be able to make the right decision at the right time. If we had said, we're going to have eternal queues in by X date, and we might, like, I mean, it's still one of our top priorities. But we also have other elements like community and social features that are very important. And we want to have those as part of the holistic view of how we want people to experience the game. If we'd said, this is happening on this date and this is happening on this date, we would absolutely have to hold ourselves to that, even if there is a better configuration on the production side of those dates, or of those focuses.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for us to work with what is best at the current time for the most players. And that's always what will do. Our goal is to make sure our game is as fun for the most amount of people as possible at any given time. But to be able to do that, we need to be flexible and we need to be dynamic. And as things change, we need to be able to adapt to those things. But I'll be creating all sorts of content and programming that will give people a future look at what we are working on. I've already been begging the team, like, let me show people the new hero. And when we feel comfortable showing new heroes and those sorts of things, we absolutely will.
It also,
It won't be,
sorry, go on.
yeah. No, I was just going to say, it won't be something that we plan on being like quiet about. We want to make a lot of noise about what our intent is.
It definitely also fits how you were talking on the dev stream about there might be a dungeon, there might be a hero when the reset comes. It gives you that freedom of like, no, this hero, it doesn't quite feel where we want it yet, so we're going to hold it a tiny bit longer. Or this dungeon, we're having like an issue with the boss, or like we just can't get it feeling just right. Like if you did have that roadmap and it said this is when the next season drops, and it's dropping with 2 new heroes and 2 new dungeons, then it ties your hands, like you said.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And then it's like you risk damaging that goodwill that you've built by releasing something weak and under
No, exactly.
unfinished.
So we're really like committed to releasing quality, right? And we've
It
had these
shows
discussions on
100%.
ours. Yeah, we've had these discussions on our side, like, oh, does it make sense to try and put out a hero before it's, fully cooked? I don't think so. And I say fully cooked. I don't mean completely, because inevitably once people get their hands on it, there's tweaks to be made and that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. And obviously we're still doing that actively. But if there's stuff that we know needs to be changed, and we plan on doing it, there's going to be a right time to make a hero playable for people. And I don't think that rushing it out just for arbitrary dates is the way to do it. But there's also the other part of the equation. And let's say, hypothetically, that's the big disclaimer here. With whatever reset or whatever kind of date that we would have coming up, if it would make sense to release a hero at that time because it's ready, absolutely we'll do that. If it's not ready, that doesn't mean that we can't talk about it, right? Like, we don't need to make it a secret. We can say, look, this is the hero that, is coming next. It's not quite ready, but here we want to show you a preview of what this hero is. We want to kind of show you where we are currently at with it, what we still have left to do. I'm very excited about that part of it as well, and just being transparent with what we're working on. Yeah, I don't think it'll be too long before we can start showing new hero previews, and that I find very exciting. Almost as exciting as people playing it, because when people get to start to think about what those impacts will be on the game, I'm not saying it's just as important as playing it, but it is, like, it's a big deal.
Yeah. It's the fun stuff as well, like getting those reveals out and seeing the reaction to them, and then seeing what it's like when people get their hands on it. You mentioned like getting things to right kind of level before releasing them, and it kind of feeds into a really, really great question that someone asked in the Reddit thread, which was, in terms of champion design and difficulty, out of the current champion pool, which hero is the perfect, in words, middle ground in terms of complexity? Hamish mentioned in passing in one of his updates that Tariq is the most overpowered but underplayed hero. Is there plans to kind of look at like where people are in that middle ground? Like, is there a hero that kind of is in that perfect sweet spot at the moment? Is Tariq your boy
thing,
because he's a rhythm guitar character?
Tariq quickly, because I think that, like, that didn't have like full context. I think on a raw numbers
of course
thing,
it's not. It's a post on Reddit.
Yeah. In a perfect world where you absolutely min-max everything with Tariq, and you effectively, probably on target dummies in reality, you're able to get everything completely right. Tariq doesn't, at least from the designer's perspective, need any changes to the numbers. There's some small, like, mechanical changes. There are actually some things in the patch notes that I think are being tweaked on Thursday. But I think in terms of the mid ground, I don't know. That's a really hard thing to answer. I think, at least from my perspective, like, again, zooming out completely, the game feels pretty well balanced, to be honest. There's nothing that feels, and people at like the top edge of Eternal probably disagree, but that's always going to be the case when there is something that is mathematically just slightly above. I know people saying, oh, it has to be double rhyme and that sort of stuff. But there's people deep in Eternal on every hero, which is just a fact. And there's been some buffs to Alarian recently, which have made some changes. I don't really have an answer to the question, because I feel like I'm kind of relating this to my experiences across a bunch of different games, and I've actually never been in a situation where things have been as balanced as they are. So I'm generally just very happy.
I don't think that any hero or champion or character in any game is ever going to reach a perfect sweet spot in
No.
quotes because of their interactivity with every other character around them. Like, if you buff Meiko, it has a knock-on effect
Hmm.
of everyone else. If you
Hmm.
nerf Tariq, it has a knock-on effect on everyone else. So I think it's constantly playing that adjustment
Oh, it's
game of trying to like get things as good as you can.
yeah, there's a million different variables. Like if you make one change to one ability on one enemy, for example, it'll change the way that people have to be positionally, and then that has
Yeah.
effects on certain heroes and these sorts of things. And then also, like we always talk about, um, the in-game balancing and that sort of stuff. But the biggest variable that no one even talks about with balancing a game is people. Like humans are the real meta that drive everything, right? So I'm always fascinated when I look at uh, I actually haven't looked into it with Fellowship, but there's also regional metas in
Oh yes.
different
Yeah, yeah,
games,
yeah.
right? And I find that so fascinating because a group of people in this part of the world have uh, you know have this consensus that this is the way to play the game. And other parts of the world have this consensus that this is the most powerful thing. And who's to say who's correct? I mean, math might say, but yeah, it's an ongoing fascinating thing, and it's an unsolvable
A
thing, and that's the
100%.
point. It can't be solved, and it shouldn't be solved because it can't be. But when there are outliers, obviously we'll deal with them. But yeah, it's I don't know. That's half the fun,
You,
right?
you've
Seeing things change over time.
you've just reminded me of the early days of Dota tournaments and the internationals and seeing the
Hmm.
kind of different play styles and approaches that
Oh, it's huge.
yeah, that like Western teams took compared to like the Eastern teams, and you would see them kind of
Hmm.
just smash these styles against each other, and like in the early days, you could see like the we're getting off of Fellowship now for a moment,
No,
like
but
the
no, but it does
but
speak
it
to the
is
dynamics of
yeah,
how it.
but like
Yeah.
that rat meta of like we're just going to let like Medusa farm up over in the lane, and like
Hmm.
once she's done, bam, just steamrolls through an entire team, and you would see like Western teams just completely unprepared for it, and it's why
No,
even
exactly.
even in like StarCraft days, you had people like, well, we're going over to Korea to like train on the
Hmm.
Korean ladder because it's
No,
just
absolutely.
an entirely different beast.
Yep. No, it's true. And I also think that like even if let's say in a hypothetical world where we don't change anything with fellowship, I mean that's not going to be the case.
Yeah.
But let's say we just took this build we have right now and we let it run for 6 months. People will be playing it differently in 6 months
Oh,
because there'll
100%.
be so many different things that people do. So that's what I mean. People find different ways to solve the same problem, which I
Oh,
think
yeah, 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 yeah.
is always fun to look at.
I think it's also really kind of awesome and interesting when you can prepare as best you like when it comes to being a dev team on a game. And the moment your game gets into the hands of players, all bets are off. Like they will come up with the weirdest combinations. They will think of things that you guys never even thought about. They will just break things in every fundamental way. And some of them will be really cool, and some of them will be like they're things that just shock you and like, wow, we never actually tried that or we never thought of that. And that's always something that to me, I love seeing that evolution. I
Absolutely.
I don't think there is a more fun and exciting time than the discoverability stage of a game when it's new and
Yeah,
fresh and everyone is having that kind of discovery stage. I think that's just there's something special about it.
definitely.
So I have a few more like community questions and then I will get out of your hair and we can quick these because
Okay, all right.
some of these you answered on DevStream before, so your answers can be super short here, which is
We can do a lightning round. I love
yeah,
a
yeah,
lightning
yeah,
round.
yeah.
That's always fun.
A few people asked about GeForce Now not working, and some of them
Yeah.
were worried about missing the event because of it. You mentioned on stream that like you are hoping for news very soon.
Yeah, so I don't have an update right now. I know that ARC, in direct conversations with NVIDIA, but I don't yet have an ETA on when that will be working just yet. So I'm chasing up news on that. So yeah, I wish I had a more solid answer on that, but it is coming.
Which is the answer that I expected, which is that, hey, we're aware that it's broken and it sucks. We want to get it fixed, don't worry.
Yep.
Some other players also asked about the current method of removing gear to get lower queue options, and if you were happy with them doing this as a solution, which in my mind, I'm sitting here thinking, no, of course you're not. You would love a better, like, streamlined answer to removing gear.
Yeah, no, so but it does speak to a very specific thing that I've been talking about with the team. Um, it's they're performing the action that I actually think is the right way for us to address some things in our game. So I spoke to Axel about this morning, and we agree that part of a lot of the frustrations that people are having is because they are being exposed to difficulties that are too high
Yes.
for what they should be doing.
Yes,
So, I mean, that's
100%.
yeah. And it's like a general issue that is being expressed in a lot of different ways. People leaving queues, people leaving dungeons because they wipe. Yeah, a lot of the things that people are expressing through their behavior is because of that root issue of they're being put into stuff that's too difficult. So we have some things that we're probably going to start trying out on Thursday with that, because again, I like to say zoom out. Um, I know people want to jump to the hardest thing and get the hardest gear straight away. That's People are probably finding out not very fun when that's not doable, right?
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of things in there right now in terms of the UX. We're not, I think on us, we're not communicating well enough that that stuff is probably too difficult. It doesn't look very scary. So right now, if I get a queue and it says there's this Adept 4 and this Adept 6. Adept 6 doesn't look a whole lot scarier than Adept 4, but it should.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of things like that.
I would be very
when
interested. I know you probably might have this information in all of the information you have, but I would be very interested on when that queue pops up and you have the option and you're voting. I would love to see a breakdown for each of the leagues of how many people actually go for something that isn't the end option, because every single queue that I have been in, everyone always just slams it straight to that right hand end up to the max. And I'm like,
but what if, for example, and again, I'm not saying this is something we're doing, but like, what if in that screen you saw, based on your average item level, this is the success rate that people are having by doing that choice, right? And it might be 10%. You'd be like, oh, actually, maybe I want to go for something that I have a higher success rate of doing. Those are the sorts of things that I think would help people make better decisions. The other thing is that, like, I'm going to be very interested once we start trying out some of these changes with how we're exposing difficulties to players. I want to see completion rates go up. And generally, I'm really excited to see if people are having more fun. And also, is their average item level over time probably faster, to be honest? I think even if they're doing things that aren't necessarily getting them huge upgrades, I think over time, their item level increase will generally be faster regardless. And they'll be having more fun doing it. So this is why early access is really great for us, because we get to try out some things and see, kind of tweak the dials a little bit and see where we can make the game the most fun. So I think there's some things we're going to be trying out on Thursday, and I hope that has the impact that we're hoping for.
I hope so too. Okay, so back to the questions. Someone asked, what are the plans for battling toxicity and promoting positivity? Have you considered systems like commendations or the Sprout mentor system in Final Fantasy 14? And it's like,
so we've got a lot of similar types of things on our list of things that we want to add. I mean, even the thing I was just talking about before is we want to incentivize people to stick around and finish dungeons, right? That is an anti-toxicity method. We also have posited, do we want to implement systems where if people solo queue and they stay with that group and complete another dungeon,
like
do
a
they
chain
get
system.
some sort of, yeah, would
cool.
they get potentially like extra marks of fellowship or 20% more gold and those sorts of things to encourage people to continue to play with others and create more positive outcomes for people. But absolutely, a lot of the things that people suggest and have suggested are absolutely on our radar of things that we can do to incentivize good behavior. I think we'd prefer at this point to incentivize positive behavior than punish bad behaviors, though that's absolutely on the table of things that we would look to do as part of the whole system. But yeah, over time, it's something that we want to continue to improve. We're not unaware. Like I said, we're playing a lot of solo queue.
Yeah.
Well, we're exclusively playing solo queue on our side, so it's not a mystery to us what people are talking about.
Next one is character-specific keybinds, which...
Oh my God, yes, please. Yeah, 100%. It's on the list. I talk about it all the time on stream. People have seen me jump into dungeons with like half of my things unbound.
It was the first thing you did.
Characters.
It was the first thing you did when you loaded up the stream. After saying hi to everyone, you then sat there for 2 minutes adjusting your keybinds while talking about.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty quick at it now, but I shouldn't have to be.
I will admit. Okay, I will admit and defend you up to a point because yes, you did it very quickly. Up until during the dungeon, you then forgot that you hadn't keybound your ulti. So
yes, I did.
So I will defend you up to a point.
There's still points of failure.
Under that bus you go.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we completely agree. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
We don't need to think too hard about that one. It just needs to be fixed.
Weirdly, there was not a single person who asked in that thread about queue imbalance and tank queues. How strange is it that not a single person?
That's weird.
Yeah. So I guess we won't talk about that because no one asked. So no one asked. How strange.
No, but we're very aware. Yeah. No, I mean there's on the tank stuff. I think there's a lot of tank anxiety. It was nice to hear some people in chat talking about. Yeah, no, it is. I think it was really interesting to see some people in chat saying, "Oh, the Halloween event actually encouraged me to try out tanking." I was like, "That's really cool." I think it's great that people are jumping into quick play and trying out tanks. I hope that more people do that over time. But it can be scary. I mean, I fall into that category. I've never tanked. I mean, I would say I've never tanked in games before Fellowship for similar reasons. But I also have a responsibility to confront that tank anxiety issue myself. So I kind of just threw myself in the deep end. And it is scary, but I'm having a lot of fun doing it. It's just it's a new challenge.
My tanking came from WoW when I just got annoyed about other people not doing it right. So I just decided to roll a tank and do it myself. Which is...
No, but it is also... Yeah, it's one of those things. I never tanked in WoW or any other games, to be fair. I've actually, when I've been playing Fellowship on like damage heroes, I've been trying to pay particular attention to what tanks are doing. So when I go back and I am playing with a good tank, I'm like, oh, well, what did they do that made my job easier as a different hero as well? So yeah, I'm finding it very interesting.
It's super interesting. Like we could sit here and talk about tanks for like just hours on end because I think it's an incredibly interesting role that people aren't aware of. Just they either are aware or they don't realize like the small details that separate a good tank and a bad tank. Like there are a lot of high pressure stakes on a tank because like you essentially can make or break a group, but then a healer can as well. Like a tank is only as good
everyone
as
can. Let's be honest. Like anyone.
I think it's incredibly important to give healers their dues as well because like a good tank is only as good as like the healer that's behind them. But if you want to see a good tank versus a great tank, the difference is in positioning, is in like the little micro adjustments they make of like which way is their camera
Yeah.
facing so that they can keep an eye on things. How are they standing? Like you can see it in like when a tank grabs a pack and then instantly turns around and makes sure that like everything's facing the right way and that everything is like just set up correctly. And some will just jump in and just fight things. And it's really interesting to me to see that kind of people who are trying to learn, people who just don't care and want to get through it quickly, and then the people who are like, no, this is my job when it comes to being a tank, and like I do it right. And it's I'm always supportive of any tank because it's like it's a thankless job at times. You get yelled at for like taking the wrong route or like anything. So
yeah, and sometimes learning takes a lot of time.
Oh
right?
yeah,
like especially I mean I'm finding that as well.
Everyone expects you to essentially already be some sort of Zen master when it comes to it as well. Like as if like it's not going to be someone's first time at some point. They expect you to like have your route mastered, to know everything exactly, and to just like Neo Matrix your way through this dungeon. It's like no.
Yeah.
Like take your time.
Exactly. And I had the same anxiety, so I would kind of say to people like it's worth trying out. I know we're kind of making it sound really scary, but it's no, but it's as scary as it can be. I'm having a lot of fun because it's really rewarding.
Yes, 100%.
It's really cool.
I would say that it can be scary, and it's that kind of like taking that first jump is the most terrifying. And then the actual art of tanking is not that scary. It's just there's an interesting amount of like other little bits and pieces that come along with it. But I definitely think more people should try it. Tanking is incredibly rewarding and very fun when you know what you're doing. And
it'll also make you better at other heroes. I would say that too. Yes. If you understand the tank role, you'll be a better DPS and you'll be a better healer. Guaranteed.
The only issue that playing a tank has is that then when you go back to playing a DPS, involuntarily, you will be an a-hole at times because you'll just be like, what is this? Which route is this tank taking? Or you'll be like, oh, I didn't like know that this was a route. Like you'll be silently judging this other tank in the back of your head sometimes. Even if you don't want to, there'll be a part of you that'll just be like...
You'll know what to interrupt, and you shouldn't be pulling things by yourself and all of these sorts of things.
Oh no,
I think it helps.
It will definitely give you a new appreciation of aggro and interrupts.
For sure.
Okay, one final community question, and this one is from the wonderfully named Mr. Frets, which is, Hamish, when will you get more guitars?
I want more guitars. I don't know. I don't know when I will get more guitars. I haven't bought a new guitar in a long time.
Which was the last one you bought? Let's like have guitar talk for a minute or two. Which was the last one you bought?
I actually haven't bought a guitar in a long time. The last kind of instrument I bought was actually a tenor ukulele.
You bought a ukulele?
I haven't bought...
Can you play the ukulele?
Of course. I don't remember the last time I bought an actual guitar. All of these are like 20 years old at least. I haven't had a need to buy a new guitar for a long time. I would like to buy
Is there a guitar that you're looking at buying? Is there any that like your dream guitar?
Yeah, I probably want like a 335 or a Gibson Hummingbird.
Ooh.
Those would be like a couple of other ones that I would like.
I don't remember the 335, but the Hummingbird. That's a nice guitar.
Yeah, no, that'd be nice.
What made you buy the ukulele?
Those are on the list. Just fun. It's fun, easy to play, pick up. Just noodle around. I mean, actually...
Go on.
Yeah, the reason I bought it was after watching the George Harrison memorial concert after he passed away. And there was a really beautiful ukulele number. So if anyone's watched the George Harrison is a concert for George at the Royal Albert Hall, there's some really cool ukulele stuff on there. That's the reason.
That's such an interesting thing to end this on. So I think people should follow the game on Steam, should wishlist if they don't already own the game on Steam, should jump into playing the game because the community is fantastic. And also they should follow you on Twitch and on YouTube at, is it Play Fellowship? What is the channel name? Yes, because the dev streams are awesome and you are one of the most interactive community managers, directors that I think exists in the space. And you are also incredibly open with communicating with a player base, which I think is fantastic.
Thanks. I mean, why wouldn't you? Right? That's my kind of answer. I mean, it's fun to talk about video games. I don't think that there's any reason not to kind of be open and talk about them. It's a lot of fun. So I'm glad that you are enjoying that too.
It's always interesting to me when people go on a stream and they ask questions and you just get the answers of, we can't talk about that yet. We can't talk about that yet. We can't talk about that yet.
Mm-hmm.
We'd like to talk about that, but we can't talk about that yet. And it's like, why are you here? why are you streaming? Like, it's such a weird one. But Hamish, thank you so much for your time.
It's always a pleasure, Dave.
Congratulations to you and the team on a successful launch. Fellowship has been eating my free time so much. And yeah, if you could just go ahead and like put that pack on the DLC store of three friends that play the exact same hours as me on the exact roles that I need.
I'll work on it.
That would be
put a Jira in for that right now. Yeah.
Just throw a team on it, get this sorted. That'd be great.
All right,
thank you, Hamish.
Got it.
Brilliant. No more notes. That's it. We can just end it right there.
Great.
Friends for Dave. Cheers. Thank you so much, Hamish.
No, that was a lot of fun.